You are listening to the voice of the Frontline Protector here at the Private Officer Beat Radio. Every week you'll hear breaking news, topics of training, information for the industry of security, public safety, and law enforcement. So strap in, hang on, we're about to speed off in this episode of the Private Officer Beat Radio. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this edition of the Private Officer Beat Radio, and I'm your host, Rick McCann. Glad that you are with us today. Now, normally I would say this is Monday, and I'd give the date, but today's not Monday. It's actually Tuesday the 21st of 2021. I'm your host. I'm the founder of Private Officer International, Armor College, and a number of other businesses. We're glad that you are with us today, even though we're a day late. If you're not already a member, or maybe you don't even know what Private Officer is, and you've just stumbled upon our radio show, I invite you to go to privateofficer.org, an organization that has been founded 18 plus years ago. We are an association, but we're much more than that. We are a large organization that serves private security, public and private law enforcement, bail enforcement, PIs, retail, loss prevention, and so much more. Go to our website. We have a 24/7 help desk. If you ever have a question, need some assistance, please contact help desk at privateofficer.com. We have so much to talk about today. We have a lot of news, obviously. There's a lot of concerning news, a lot of breaking news, a lot of information that we want to share with you. I got an email last week asking, did I forget something in my recent news broadcast? Well, my friends, it is true that I often forget some of the topics that I say in the beginning. I'm going to talk about this, and this, and then sometimes I just don't make it to every topic. I've been told numerous times, don't spit that information out. Don't give that information in the beginning. Keep people guessing what the program is going to be about. But we try to make it interesting, and we want you to know what the topics are and what we're looking at and what we might be, probably will be, hopefully will be discussing, and what some of the other news and so forth is. And we try to give you a little bit of a synopsis, kind of like a syllabus if you're taking an online or in-class training. But we want to let you know what's happening. So today is no different. Let me tell you, today we have just a huge amount of breaking news involving private security and just a lot of violence happening. We also want to talk about the TikTok challenge. You may have heard this, may have seen it. It's not a good challenge. TikTok, of course, is that online social media platform followed by all ages, really, but many teens. And now there's a TikTok challenge called the Devious Lick. Have you heard about this? The Devious Lick. For those of you who are a little bit old like me, you might not really understand what that lick means unless you were involved in street crime. But a lick is a robbery or a crime or something that could get you in trouble. Oftentimes when you hear street language, a lick, we're going to go get a good lick tonight, it means a robbery. They're going to set somebody up. But this isn't a robbery, but we will tell you about the seriousness of it and how it's gotten out of hand. Of course, we're talking today about the virtual museum and our progress. We're going to be talking about a whole lot of breaking news happening and so much more. Remember, you can join the conversation. You can be part of our daily network, the goings on here at Private Officer International. Join us every single day on Facebook.com/Private Officer International, and on Twitter, very simple, Twitter.com/Private Officer. We're there 24/7 just about, and that's where we post a lot of our breaking news and a lot of our information. Also, you can join us on our daily news blog. Trust me, you're going to want to go there every day because there's so much interesting news. Private Officer Breaking News.blogspot.com. We post fresh, not stale, not old stuff like that old bread that I tossed out this weekend. No. We got brand new, fresh, out of the bakery stuff every single day at Private Officer Breaking News.blogspot.com. We've actually used that platform there at Blogspot for, gosh, I'd say about 15 years maybe. It's been a long, long time. And as I looked this past week at all of our social media platforms, our radio show platforms, the distribution now that we have of the radio show, all of the different platforms, devices, entities that we use to get our word out, to get the information out, the news here on POI, Private Officer International. We have really grown over the years. We've really expanded, reaching so many dozens of different countries, members throughout the globe, the world. And speaking about the globe, we're also going to be talking about the global citizen here coming up after the first break, and so much more. We will tell you before we go to the first break that this has been quite a ride, 18-plus years that we have been in operation. Many still don't understand what we do, what it's all about. We need to get the word out. And if you're a member of POI, if you're a social media follower, if you are part of our news platform or our radio show follower, please tell people about Private Officer International, all that we're doing for the private security, loss prevention field, as well as private law enforcement. I just happened to see a post on Friday here in Charlotte, North Carolina, about a retired police officer from several departments. He was a state trooper. He was a NYPD officer. He has been in TV now for a number of years. He's written several books, and he remains in law enforcement as a private law enforcement officer here in North Carolina. So he gets it. He understands what private policing is all about. We actually have an online course that you can take, Private Special Police. So many states have that in the law. No, they are not security guards directly. They are sworn law enforcement. And we also have a course about the security private police business, a special police business, I meant to say, special police, private police business. Go to Armour, ARMOUR college.org right now, today, and check those courses out. If you've always wanted to be in law enforcement, and for whatever reason you just waited around, a few weeks ago I talked to a female on social media, and she was saying that she loves law enforcement. She always wanted to be one. She got, married, had children, and she's not that old. I talked to her a little bit about private policing, and she's looking into that right now. So if you've always wanted to be in law enforcement, private policing is a growing aspect of law enforcement, especially now with so much defund the police. And in fact, Minneapolis is taking votes right now to just close down their entire police department, not just get rid of a few officers, but to close down that entire department and to put, listen to this, unarmed people patrolling the streets. Oh my goodness. We're going to take a quick break, but when I say stuff like that, my heart stops, and I just, wow, I really do want to give some comments about it, but we'll be right back. You're listening to the Private Officer Beat Radio.
It's a very simple thing. It only takes 2 seconds. We all know we should do it. We all say we do it. But do we? About 35,000 people were killed in motor vehicle accidents last year. More than half were not wearing a seatbelt. A brother, a father, a mother, a best friend. Is it worth it? I lost a sister. Don't let it happen to you and your family. Tell the people you love to buckle up.
Without this woman, my father couldn't have had his hip replaced.
Without these people, I'd be dead.
This man helped my son through leukemia.
Do something amazing. Give blood.
Body Armor USA, we've got what it takes to protect you. How many times have you heard me say this through the years? Body Armor USA, we've got what it takes to protect you. If you're looking for the best body armor, protective clothing, ballistic clothing, stab-resistant vests, call our friends today or go to their online website at Body Armor USA or call them on the phone. Their phone number is area code 516-817-1666, 516-817-1666. Our friends at Body Armor USA will take care of you. There is really no doubt about it. They are good people. They have good body armor. And I can tell you what, they are just good people all around and supporters of POI as well as members. So check them out today. I don't really know what to think about this headline here, but NYPD, for years, I don't know if it's been 100, 1,000, or 50, at least 50, I would say, has been in control of the safety and security of all the public schools, PS schools, they call them. PS, and then there's a number of the school. For many years, they have trained, staffed, allocated funds for the safety and security of all of the public schools in the city, in all 5 boroughs. Let me see if I can name them. Brooklyn, Bronx, Long Island, Staten Island, and Manhattan. I think that was it. They are the ones responsible for keeping tens of thousands of students safe in New York. But now, I don't know who even came up with this idea. But for the last couple of years, as you know, they have been trying to get the police out of many school systems. I just went to see how many schools there was and how many students there was within the New York City school system. It's the largest school district in the U.S., maybe even in the world. 1,094,138 students currently go to school every day in the New York City school system. But now, first, they wanted the 5,000 plus NYPD safety officers to be taken away from NYPD and put under the school as far as being responsible for these officers. They wanted them to have the title officer taken away. Well, now they've gone even a step further because now 5,000 plus NYPD safety school officers are now to become restorative justice advocates. No longer wearing uniforms, no longer in charge of school physical security, no longer in charge in discipline, no longer in charge in safety, no longer will they be employed in any position of safety, policing, nothing. Their job is to be restorative justice advocates / counselors, helpers, guidance counselors, whatever that all makes up. Restorative justice. It's just everywhere now, and I really just don't understand how they think this is going to keep anybody safe. Restorative justice means a system of criminal justice which focuses on the rehabilitation of offenders through training and guidance and one-on-one assistance and working within the community at large. But, you know, that's for offenders. How is restorative justice going to keep 1 million plus students in the school system of New York City safe, or any city? New York is not the only one doing this. In my state here of North Carolina, several schools, including Winston-Salem, have gotten rid of security, police as well, and now they have these student friends, I guess they are. They are there to support the student. Well, that's what the police do. That's what security officers do. Police and security wasn't all about punishment or discipline or let's see how many tickets we can write today. But, of course, that is part of their duties. Now, in the schools, you've got people who are just going to be there to give hugs and smiles and say everything's going to be okay and la-da-da-da. We're living in a make-believe world. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it, kids. No one's going to come in and hurt you. No active shooters are going to occur here because there's no more police, so they're not going to come here. Silly thoughts. Things that are happening across the nation are going to affect you, your city, your town, your state, sooner or later. And it's a terrible, terrible, terrible thing. I agree. Law enforcement went a few steps too far sometimes. As I've said numerous times, law enforcement originally was put into the school systems for physical security to prevent trespassers on the property or people coming into school buildings during school hours that wasn't authorized. Then they were brought into the classrooms. They were brought inside the schools. They became disciplinarians. They became the punishers. They became, it's kind of like, I hate this when people do this. It's kind of like I see parents when they see a police officer. They're like, "Oh, Johnny, you better be good because that cop's going to lock you up, going to put you in jail." What do you think that kid is thinking? Oh, my God, he's the enemy. He's a bad guy. I don't want to be around the police. I don't want to be. It's the wrong way to go. Yes, there needed to be some redirection, reconstruction of school policing. But to take all the cops out of the schools and to put these unarmed, untrained, social justice advocates walking around the school all day, that doesn't protect anybody. That's what guidance counselors are for. Before we go to our first break, or our second break actually, let me tell you about the virtual museum. I know that we have talked over the last few weeks about this. I want to keep you updated because we're very serious about this project. I am disappointed that there's only been a few people interested in working on this with us. The virtual museum is a very important aspect of what we do. It will get that information out to more people virtually. They'll be able to look at how security began, what was involved, where security is today, and everything in between. Private security has been around a long, long time. So what I'm looking for, and it's very easy for you to get involved. People are always cruising the internet. All that you have to do is check out, on the internet, old pictures, old videos, information, historical information about the security industry, and send that to us, and we'll give you credit for it. On our new virtual museum website, we're going to be using the latest technology, 360 view. We'll be telling stories about the security industry. We'll be telling stories about individual companies that began way back in the day. We'll be telling, the history of what security has done, everything from locks to individuals to patches to badges to companies. It's really detailed, and we need help. We need help. Become a volunteer curator at the Private Officer Virtual Museum simply by sending us an email at helpdesk@privateofficer.com. Get involved today. We'll be right back. Hey everyone, you're listening to the voice of the Frontline Protector right here on the Private Officer Radio Network. Now don't go away because we are coming right back when we've got a whole lot more right here on the Private Officer Beat Radio.
More than 114,000 people are waiting on an organ transplant at any given time in the U.S., and at least 80% of those are waiting for a kidney.
For kidneys, it largely defaults to waiting time, but for livers, hearts, and lungs, it's largely based on the degree of illness and how sick someone is, and that defines their priority on the waiting list.
Dr. Charles Rosen, director of the Transplant Center at Mayo Clinic, says living donors can help save people waiting for a kidney or a liver, but those waiting for other organs, unfortunately, have to wait for a deceased donor. Dr. Rosen says if you're interested in saving another person's life with your organs after you die, it's important to sign up as a donor now while you're still alive to save your family from having to make a difficult decision at a difficult time.
We've heard from donor families or potential donor families that decided not to donate because it was such a stressful time in their lives that then 3-6 months later they felt some remorse for not doing that.
For the Mayo Clinic News Network, I'm Ian Roth.
If you're not already receiving breaking news and our bi-weekly newsletter, Officer Down Reports, and discount training news in your personal or business email, then go to our website right now at privateofficer.org. privateofficer.org. A drop box will come down. Just fill out your info, and you'll be the first, one of the first, for sure, to know about what's happening in the security industry. You'll know when a security officer is killed. You'll also get these great discounts on training and equipment and so much more. privateofficer.org. And
across central Alabama about a new challenge on TikTok that's leading to vandalism at schools. CBS 42's Catherine Mazzone joins us now with the problems schools are facing with this challenge. Catherine?
Sherry, this nationwide trend has hit central Alabama now, in Coleman County specifically. We spoke to the school superintendent there, who called the game silly, but also says students who take part could face criminal charges. Today, Coleman County's Shane Barnett was one of two superintendents who sent out a message to students and parents warning of the TikTok challenge devious licks and the repercussions for those who participate. One of our sister stations got a hold of these challenge clips. In the video, Jefferson County Superintendent Walter Gonsolin posted for parents right there. Gonsolin says damaging or stealing school property crosses the line. And both agreed this challenge is not a game.
Parents, we need your help. We need you to talk to your children. I know things might seem like a prank, like a joke, but it's not.
And I know this is the last thing that parents want to do, especially they don't want to come in and meet with us about their kids getting in trouble for swapping a soap dispenser. I mean, it's a little ridiculous, to be honest with you.
Barnett says students there have stolen soap dispensers from restrooms. He says it won't cost a lot of money to replace, quote, perfectly good equipment, but Barnett says they have far more important things to do and ways they want to spend their money and their time. Barnett says this TikTok trend is distracting students from learning more than they already are due to the COVID pandemic. He adds there are cameras throughout Coleman County schools and the perpetrators will be caught. Sherry, back to you.
Bathrooms in high schools and middle schools after students decide to participate in a destructive social media challenge. Good evening, I'm Lauren Motter.
I'm Brian Mudd. This challenge costing districts a lot of money now, and the students who committed these crimes could face serious consequences. KMAX Brian Chandler's here with a look at the damage.
That's right, Brian. You know, the TikTok app that gained popularity for its music and its dancing videos has taken a destructive turn this week. Lubbock ISD says all of its high schools and most of its middle schools have been vandalized due to a national challenge spreading on the app. I spoke with Lubbock ISD law enforcement and students, both saying it's not worth it.
This is not a prank. These are crimes that are being committed. And so they need to think about that, and they need to think about it real hard.
Lubbock ISD is rushing to clean up after a viral trend led to more than 10 campuses vandalized this week.
It is serious because it is a disruption to school. It's costly. It's using additional resources.
It's called the Devious Lick Challenge. Lubbock ISD students have stolen soap dispensers from bathroom walls and electronics from their ceilings, clogged sinks, and flooded toilets, even spilled Kool-Aid all over the walls and ripped sinks straight out of them.
All for a trend on TikTok, which is getting millions of views, but costing thousands of dollars in damage. And some of these viral vandals have been paying the price.
Do you regret your involvement in this?
Very.
Why?
Because ISS means I couldn't go on my choir trip nor participate in any of my basketball games or track production.
Was it worth it?
No.
In-school suspensions for some, but worse for others. Lubbock ISD has filed at least 2 police reports against these vandals, and they say the crime could reach a felony if the damage is bad enough. TikTok taking its own actions to stop this trend. If you try to search for these videos now, nothing comes up. And LISD sending out an urgent email to parents, communicating one urgent message.
This really isn't an innocent prank. It really is criminal behavior, and we're not going to tolerate it. And so we just want students to know that they really are damaging property. They really are committing a criminal offense, and we take it seriously. And we'll keep investigating until we find the culprits.
School districts encouraging parents to educate themselves on first what TikTok is and to have a conversation with their kids about social media responsibility, because there is a fine line between funny and felony.
Across the country right now, there is a challenge going on the internet and a social media platform called TikTok. Many of you probably don't have it if you're like me. This is a young person's social media video platform, although many adults and even seniors do have it. It is actually a product of China with many security risks, according to our own Homeland Security and other federal agencies advising not to download it because there's a very large risk of being infiltrated by the Chinese and getting personal data and so forth. Well, Facebook does the same thing, and so does Twitter. And these days, if you're on the internet at all, you're at risk. But there's a challenge right now called the devious lick. And as I was saying just a moment ago, a lick in the criminal world, it's not like you know, a lick, oh, you're going to be licking something. No, many criminals call it a lick when you rob somebody. According to the Urban Dictionary, a lick is a successful type of theft or robbery, which ends in a rewarding payday. Last night, I hit a good lick. If you ever watch some of the criminal shows like 48 Hours and shows like that on TV, on cable, you'll have heard that as well. Sometimes a good lick can also mean that I went to the casino and I won $10,000. That's a good lick. It's slang. But these days, right now on TikTok, as you just heard examples of it, the challenge is for teenagers to tear things off the wall. Soap dispensers, sinks, toilets, vandalize the school building. And in many places across the country, tens of thousands of dollars of vandalism has been done so far. Now, you say, well, this is just kids having fun, and what's a little vandalism, you know, it's not going to hurt anybody. The school has the money to replace that soap dispenser or fix the sink. Vandalism in any level, destruction of private property in any level, thinking that way to any degree is not good. You're supposed to be an example, not antagonizing kids to go ahead and do it. So this social media platform challenge has put some teens in handcuffs and caused others to have to go to juvenile court and even spend time in juvie, their parents having to pay for the destruction that their children has caused. Now, TikTok announced over the weekend that they have eliminated the challenge when you type in devious lick on TikTok. It's not supposed to come up anymore, but for whatever reason, that doesn't seem to be working because kids are still doing it across the country. As a security officer, especially somebody assigned to a school, you are probably dealing with this. You probably know about it. If you do, send us a little note. What happened at your school? You don't have to identify the school if you're not allowed to. Helpdesk@privateofficer.com. We just like to keep on top of current situations, incidents, and events happening across the country. In a little bit more sadder news, TSA announced on Friday, I don't know if you caught up with this news, 10,000 TSA personnel have had or currently have COVID-19, and 27 have died from that, including recently Robert Logan Jr., a TSA officer at Boise Air Terminal in Idaho. He was the latest employee to die. Now, we have Private Officer International, and I know that the Washington Post and a few other news media folks have contacted TSA since last year trying to get hard, firm numbers. We have been able to keep up with many of the deaths and illnesses. Now, TSA has finally listed the top 12 or 15 airports in the U.S. that had the highest COVID infection rate, including infection rates of other employees and passengers as well. You might want to go there before you fly. 27 TSA personnel dead. 10,000 others have had or do have COVID. Just this week, we sadly had to announce the numbers of security personnel that died just in the last week. In Lee County, Alabama, a civilian Lee County court security officer with the Lee County Sheriff's Office died. He was 77. He was also a reserve deputy sheriff. And, you might say, well, the guy was old and he had probably many other underlying conditions. And, it was his time to go. Still, this man gave his life to his community and was there protecting the courts when I'm sure he contacted the disease and, like many others, have died. But last year we had hundreds of security officers die, and this year, as of today, we've had 85 security officer COVID deaths in the U.S. We're also up to 72 security officers murdered in 2021. That's pretty large numbers, and unfortunately, I don't think that's going to go down at all. Another court security officer that we announced a few days back that died was from Texas. Again, this man gave many years as a law enforcement officer before becoming a courthouse security officer, and we recognized him. He's on our Officer Down page. We also had, unfortunately, others this week. 3 other security officers, including a female security officer from a hospital in Philadelphia, has died. 2 security officers from New York City died this week from coronavirus, including Jeanette Frooms of Brooklyn and Stephen Bradall, 56, of New York. And we also, about a week ago, announced an Arlington, Texas, 20-year-old female security officer, Heather Buchanan, passed away after spending several weeks on the ventilator, and she had no underlying conditions. Right now, this time of year, unfortunately, COVID deaths are really increasing. Whether you believe in the virus or not, it is a virus, and our security personnel are truly dying from it, just like law enforcement. And we really need to take all the precautions possible. Whether, if you're not going to get the vaccine, you should wear a mask, goggles, face protection, something to protect your eyes, nose, and mouth, and really use that PPE in the manner that it's supposed to be. Our friends at Premier Training Academy in Charlotte, North Carolina, they're the best around if you're looking to be trained as a security officer, armed or unarmed, in North Carolina or South Carolina. Give them a call today at 704-806-4933. Call John at 704-806-4933. They're right over there, very easy to get to, 5624 Executive Center Drive in Charlotte, North Carolina. They also do a lot of first aid CPR training, civilian arm training, and a whole lot more. We're going to take another quick break, but like always, we got a lot more to talk about. We'll be right back. You're listening to the Private Officer Beat Radio.
Can we be real for a minute? I'm a high school math teacher, and I'm a firefighter. Man, we're going to have you out in just a minute, okay?
I'm a designer.
I'm a retired VP in business.
And I'm a student.
I'm a mother.
I'm a business analyst, and I'm a volunteer firefighter.
You thought we just fought fire? Firefighters get trained to do so many things.
Right here. Be sharp. What we do is serious business.
Three-quarters of the nation's first responders are volunteers. That includes here in Connecticut. And lately, it's been harder than ever, with fewer citizens volunteering.
From teenage cadets like me
to seasoned veterans like me.
So what are you waiting for?
You ready to make a difference? Ready to join our team?
Your community needs you. We need you. Visit everydayheroct.org or stop by your local firehouse today and take the first step of joining your fire department.
The Federal Aviation Administration wants you to fly your drone responsibly. Avoid flying your drone near other aircraft, especially near airports. Fly your drone below 400 feet. Always keep your drone in sight. If you see a safety issue involving drones, contact local law enforcement immediately. Fly smart. Fly safe. Have fun.
When I was a gang leader, we probably did business together because when people like you buy knockoffs on the street, often the money goes to gangs, and gangs use this easy money for other activities. In other words, they're getting a lot of bang for their buck.
Counterfeits hurt, but you have the power to stop them. Go to www.ncpc.org/getreal. A message from the National Crime Prevention Council and the Bureau of Justice Assistance, U.S. Department of Justice.
All right, I am sitting at the news desk this morning. A lot of breaking news, as always, and we have a lot of interesting people who read our breaking news reports and receive our newsletters in the mail, emails, and you can be one of those. Just go to privateofficer.org and sign up today for breaking news, or read our daily news blog every single day at privateofficerbreakingnews.blogspot.com. Now, if you are already receiving our breaking news alerts and emails, and you're on our email list, then yesterday, sometime during the day, you received an email. And that email from our office was sent out to many, many people. In fact, obviously, everybody who is on our subscriber list did receive the email. And as sometimes does happen, we received an email back overnight commenting on our email. Now, the topic of the email that was sent yesterday, the news update, was called Private Security Now Vaccination Proof Enforcers, because what's happening across the country is that many businesses, retail and restaurants specifically, but others as well, are now employing private security to verify that the person has been vaccinated before allowing them into their place of business. Now, in some areas, that is the requirement of the health law, and in other areas, business owners have taken it upon themselves to require it. So our email yesterday basically went over that topic and discussed what was happening across the country. And overnight, we got this email in return. It says, this article is written with great prejudice. People do have a right to be any place they want to be, as long as they are not creating a disturbance or committing a crime or violating a law. These requirements, mandates, and rules are not laws. Using private security to enforce these rules, requirements, and mandates is a direct violation, by golly, of our freedom. These politicians and bureaucrats wanting to enforce their freedom-violating rules, mandates, and requirements are attempting to pit Americans against Americans, to split up the country and create divide. If those politicians and bureaucrats want to enforce these rules, mandates, and requirements, why aren't they, he misspelled the word, using government employees such as police, health workers, inspectors, and code enforcement? Well, they are. Why are the businesses required at their own expense to enforce these government rules and mandates? These rules and mandates and requirements are a bridge of our freedom. No one has the right to your health information. No one has the right to forbid someone from their freedom based solely on their medical status. What about immunity? Those that have had the virus should have a natural immunity and possibly even better than those that are vaccinated. This article is written with, by golly, great prejudice. No, this article was written with information of what is currently happening across the country. We don't take a stand one way or the other, and you have a right to your opinion. We're not giving an opinion. We're giving the facts of what's occurring. You will not find a news article put out by this office with our opinion in it. We're not the standard cable news out there who every news item has to have their opinion inserted. This article was based on the facts and the law. So to address this person's concern, number one, yes, you are breaking the law if you enter a place of business that tells you don't come in. You're trespassing. Yes, you are breaking the law if you create a disturbance when you're told you cannot come in, and that is what's happening across the country with several store employees now in the last week being injured, assaulted when they're trying to just uphold the rules. And yes, in many places, it is the law that you must be vaccinated. And, again, whether you agree, you don't agree, that's fine. Like I told this person in an email this morning, there are places I won't personally shop because I don't agree with one thing or the other about that business. So these are the types of emails that we sometimes receive based on our news alerts and information that we're putting out. But the information that we're putting out is factual and it's current and it's not an opinion. Again, if you missed that news article, you can go to privateofficerbreakingnews.blogspot.com because it is posted there on our news blog as well. And basically it just says that numerous restaurants and retail outlets are now using security officers at the door to help enforce the COVID rule about being vaccinated. If you want to be, if you want to dine here, if you want to be a shopper here, some stores and restaurants are requiring that vaccination proof. Again, that is their right, just like they can refuse service to anyone who is not dressed properly or someone who causes a disturbance. Shopping malls can eject you if you have cuss words, bad language on your T-shirts. That's their right. It's private property. The business is open to for service and to provide a service or a good, some type of quantity product. But again, it's private property, and they can choose who their customers are going to be. And if you don't want to shop there, obviously you don't have to. Connecticut Amazon workers are suing another Amazon group, employees suing over unpaid screenings and searches for a number of years now. There have been numerous lawsuits across the country because workers have to clock out and then they are subject to pat-downs and searches of their property for any merchandise to make sure that they're not leaving with anything they shouldn't. So now a group of current and former Amazon warehouse employees in Connecticut have filed a similar lawsuit. I know that one lawsuit last year was $4.5 million settlement, and another one for $8.67 million was also settled by Amazon. So the latest payout, it says, was about $5,700 per employee. Again, this week, unfortunately, this past week, 3 fatal shootings by security personnel. This is a subject that's not going away anytime soon. We continue to address it. We are making strides in informing, training, educating as many as we can, and we're also working with a number of regulatory states, and we hope that we can come to some conclusion, some level of understanding of how we can prevent so many of these. True, security officers are attacked. True, there are many people with weapons. True, the job of security is different today than it was just 15 or 20 years ago, but there's got to be more that we can do, more training, more education, more support. Security officers in Kansas City, Missouri found a dead body, something that does happen quite frequently. The man was fatally shot. It was in the city's old Westport neighborhood. They have a contract to patrol that neighborhood because of a lack of police, and they've been doing it for quite some time. We hear about people security officers finding dead bodies pretty regularly. It's not something uncommon. The city of Kansas City, Missouri said they have 105 murders so far, and that is on track to what they've had last year. Coming out of California this week in Watsonville, California, the school had removed all of the SROs, but when crimes increased, they brought them back. But now they're going to pair SROs with mental health clinicians tandemly. They're going to be walking and patrolling the school systems. Again, we talked about this in the cities. We've talked about this in some other colleges and universities. I don't know that there's any other school doing this, high school, but this is something that you probably will see a lot more of. And I don't know myself if there's really that need, but some people do. Scottsdale, Arizona is cracking down on nightclub security after many fights and incidents involving both the customers, the patron, as well as security. The police department there has now begun training nightclub security officers, and they say that they are starting to see a difference. 2 students were shot in the middle of a classroom in Newport News yesterday. Police there responded saying that a female and a male both shot. One was shot in the face during school, and they believe that this was a confrontation that had been ongoing with another person. That person is still on the run. Sadly, coming out of Houston, Texas, yesterday also, 2 police officers were shot, one fatally during an execution of a warrant. Police say when they went to the door at 7:30 a.m. to serve an arrest warrant for a narcotics case, the man inside opened fire immediately. Officer William Jeffrey, a 30-year veteran of the force, was pronounced dead. Also coming out of New York This is in Dutchess County. A teen was fatally stabbed during a high school football game Friday night. This was on school property as well. The 16-year-old was rushed to the hospital but died. Security and law enforcement was working that game, and unfortunately, the teen was still stabbed. And we actually are seeing a very large increase in on-school property stabbings and shootings. Chicago, Illinois, a security agent at a nightclub was shot in a drive-by at the Clutch Bar at 316 West Erie Street. He is in good and stable condition. Police responded to shots fired at security and arrested Mario Mata, 27. This was in Rogers, Arkansas. Police there say that the security officers were outside the Angus Grill and Cantina. When the confrontation occurred, the man left, but then came back and began shooting with a rifle. Police were able to catch him nearby. No report of injuries there. At a mall in Mobile, Alabama, over the weekend, Mobile police report that a man was shot at the mall in Mobile. He was able to drive a little further west of the mall and collapsed in his vehicle at the Firestone, and he died at the hospital. That is currently under investigation. 2 people were fatally shot this weekend at a university, North Carolina Central University in Durham. This was also during a football game. 5,600 people were attending. 2 people were killed, 2 others shot during some type of confrontation in one of the parking structures. Police are still investigating that. A Georgia police officer in Gwinnett County was working security when he heard gunfire. He went to the area nearby to investigate. He found 1 person dead, 2 others shot, and he was working security at that time. Again, I just mentioned a moment ago about another security officer in Kansas City finding a dead body. It's something that does happen pretty often. In San Antonio, Texas, another security officer who heard gunfire while working at about 2 a.m. Sunday morning. He ran to the 4500 block of North Loop, where he found a man bleeding. He applied a tourniquet and rendered first aid, probably saving that man's life. Good job on the part of the security officer. No report as to the condition of the person that was shot. In Denver, Colorado last week, a high school shooter, somebody who had entered the school in 2019 and began shooting it up. Several people were killed. He had 46 charges lodged against him, including murder. He was actually stopped by a private security officer. Otherwise, there probably would have been a whole lot more victims. Well, now he's been sentenced to 1,200 years. 1,200 years in prison without the possibility of parole. In Detroit, Michigan, there is a security shortage, and it's not just Detroit, but it's really across the country. We're going to be talking more about this in the upcoming weeks, about the turn in physical security as well as physical jobs and how many of those are being taken over by robots and cameras and technology. But here in Detroit, the security guard shortage is so drastic that they not only, the Detroit Public Schools not only raised the rate of pay for entry level and everybody on staff, but they began offering benefits that they've never offered before. Unfortunately, what we're seeing is that you can work at a Burger King these days and get paid $18 an hour, and security is starting at about, 12, 13, 15 in some areas. Another police officer was killed also this week in Florence County, South Carolina. A Lake City Police Lieutenant, John Stewart, was shot. Police said that this was after a pursuit. shots were fired, and the lieutenant was killed. A Mobile, Alabama man has been charged with murder at the Golden Nugget Casino. This is in Biloxi, Mississippi. There, casino security responded immediately to shots fired on the gaming floor. Police have arrested Jeremy Lamont Jones of Mobile and charged him with murder. Casino security said that a fight had broken out, and the man then came back in and pulled a firearm and began shooting, killing the man. We also announced via our website, our private officer breaking news.blogspot site, as well as through our newsletters, that 10,000 TSA workers have now been reportedly infected with the COVID-19. 27 of them have died. We have been keeping up with the TSA numbers, and unfortunately, one of their members just died over the weekend. If you go to our private officer breaking news blog spot site, you'll see the airports with the most cases of COVID there. 2 young children, teenagers, 13 and 14, have been arrested in Lee Acres, Florida, because they were plotting a Columbine-type mass shooting at their middle school. Philip Bird and Connor Pruitt, 13 and 14, must spend 21 days in juvenile detention after their arrest before they have to appear in court. Police got word of the plan. They had detailed maps and outlines, some weapons, and locations of security cameras. They were all set to go and kill as many people as they could. Investigators say they responded to the teens' homes nearly 80 times in recent years for various types of calls. A volunteer state park patrol officer, 70 years old, jumped into the brawl in Hampton, New Hampshire, after he saw a police officer struggling to detain a man. The 70-year-old, a retired corrections officer, said he didn't hesitate, didn't think twice about going to help the police officer. He knew that he could make some type of difference, whatever it might be. He ran. He began pulling on the man. He was grabbing on the man. He was tackling the man. He did whatever he could until the officer was able to subdue him, and responding officers arrived to help detain the suspect. In Thibodaux, Louisiana, a police officer there was killed last Thursday in a single vehicle accident while on duty. The officer had only been on the job for 2 months. 21-year-old Austin Bush died while responding to a police call. A lot more news is happening. Go to our website at privateofficerbreakingnews.blogspot.com. You'll see it all right there. A lawsuit that we have been following in an arrest that happened in Portland last year. Freddie Nelson Jr. was shot and killed by an unlicensed armed security officer in Portland. And the problem is, not only did his security company, Cornerstone Security Group, know he was unlicensed, but he was also a felon and should not have had possession of a firearm. And also, the licensing regulatory agency in Oregon also knew that this man was still out there working and was unlicensed. Now there's a lawsuit, and we're going to be following this to see really what happens. But this is an ongoing situation, and unfortunately, it's really up to the business owners to be ethical and to be honest, and only to put the right people out there. In Raleigh, North Carolina, last week, security at a nightclub shot and killed a man after the man who was armed raised his firearm and began threatening the security officers. Devon Bowser, 28, was arguing first with employees at the nightclub, and then when security stepped in, he pulled his gun, and unfortunately, he was shot and killed. In Alabama, in Attalla, Alabama, another nightclub shooting incident. A disgruntled patron began shooting at a security officer. They exchanged multiple gunshots. the security officer was able to shoot the armed patron, and the security officer was not injured. We're going to take a quick break. We got some other things we want to say before we wrap up this edition of the Private Officer Beat Radio.
What am I doing lying in this casket? Oh yeah, that's right. I'm dead. I got shot. I'm not supposed to be dead. I'm only 17. And now I can't see my 18th birthday because I'm a fatal victim of gun violence. My friends, my family, my own mother was devastated. Can't see her son anymore because of gun violence. And everyone's here at the funeral. But before they lay me to rest, there's just one last thing I have to do. How many more of us have to die from gun violence? Let's put a stop to this, because if we don't, the next time it could be your child lying in this casket.
Brought to you by Men Up Inc. USA, a proud member of the Gun Violence Awareness Movement.
The third week of every September, Private Officer International, for almost 18 years, has sponsored a National Private Officer Memorial Service to recognize those men and women in the private security and private law enforcement field who have died in the line of duty, those who have given their life to protect others. Now, last year, due to COVID, we were not able to go out and do those in-person memorial services that are often attended by local politicians, state politicians, law enforcement, private security, even firefighters and others have come out to our memorial services where we talk about the private security industry and how it's changed and the number of injuries and deaths each year, and we call off the names of those deceased from the previous year. Just like any law enforcement memorial held any place in the country, we perform a similar ceremony, and it has been very successful over the years, and I've had a lot of help from supporters and members of POI to make them successful. Last year, because of COVID, we were not able to do it. We did a short memorial virtual service. And this year, we thought that we would be able to go out and, again, hold in-person ceremonies. But as we got closer to the September and the third week of September, we realized that because of the increase of COVID now, once again, even with having vaccinations and masks and PPE, it probably would not be the safest thing to do and not the smartest thing to do. And several people who were interested in holding ceremonies said that they would rather not and that they would do it next year. So this week on this radio show, we're not going to do a full-blown ceremony, but we do want to recognize the men and women who are killed every year. This year we have about 156 or maybe a little bit more who have died in the line of duty. Many were murdered. Many have died from COVID. Others have died from accidents. One security officer died from falling off from a roof. We do all that we can to locate these news articles and this information. It is not easy. We spend day after day after day researching and trying to come up with the information. Unlike the Officer Down Memorial page, which we have addressed numerous times, that information is sent in by the agency, the employer. We have asked many large security companies to send us information when one of their people do die on the job, but most still do not do this. Many still would like just to ignore it and hide it and not make it a fact because it might make their company look bad or whatever it might be. The same is true with injuries and with COVID deaths. We've had a struggle through the years of researching and being able to curate and find this information, but we've done an overall good job. Despite our numbers, our statistics being pretty accurate, we know that there are many others that we probably are not locating, we're not seeing, even though we go through more than 3,000 news sites now every day. It is impossible to catch everything. That's why we ask you as listeners, followers, supporters, and POI members to please check the news in your area as regularly as possible, daily if possible, and send us any information that you see so that we can investigate it further and make our membership aware of these injuries and deaths and going-ons in your area. Helpdesk@privateofficer.com would be the place to send it. We're studying right now a big change. We're seeing a big change on the types of jobs that security personnel are being put into. We mentioned the COVID vaccination enforcement today, but security personnel are being used on patrol much more in the last few years than ever. We've even discussed previously how a sheriff's department in Florida hired unarmed security personnel to patrol the streets because they just didn't have manpower. We know of a city in Alabama that hired security personnel to patrol their town because they only had police officers on duty at night. We're seeing more and more communities hire private security to patrol the streets, to patrol the neighborhoods, because there's just not enough police to go around. With this happening, more security officers are being involved in face-to-face incidents and being injured and being killed. And we also know that more security officers are arming themselves, some legally and some not. With all of this being said, we want to make sure that we're able to stay on top of the injuries and the deaths of security personnel and private police in the line of duty, and we need your help to do it. Contact us anytime at helpdesk@privateofficer.com. I would ask that today and this week that you spend a moment in silence just remembering those who have given all. Like a law enforcement officer or a firefighter or any first responder, private security go above and beyond the requirements. Most days, they sometimes even unknowingly put themselves in a dangerous situation and lose their life. That's going to conclude this episode of the Private Officer Beat Radio. Until the next time, be blessed, be safe, and we'll see you back here on the radio.